Yes, the theme of the International Federation of Red Cross report, the World Disaster Report this year, was culture and disaster. And also, Hajit and Sam both know, as I do from years of work in Africa with farmers, ordinary farmers, herders, and fishers, is that local people actually have a lot of knowledge. And with that as my sort of initial unscripted comment, let me actually share with you the work of someone called Wu Qianeng, who in the 16th century in China broke with the imitative standards of classical literature and published a collection of popular tales in the language of the street and the marketplace. Like Ulysses before and Huck Finn after, Stone Monkey journeys far and wide, surviving and helping friends and fellow travelers to survive disasters and hardships. There are snowbound mountains, floods, storms, and an impassable ocean. But there are also thieves, murderous beings, poison, and treachery. Stone Monkey overcomes them all, even the 81st catastrophe, when he thought all was over and his goal achieved. So my theme this morning, or this afternoon, where you are, is monkey business. Are there signs of monkeys in the preparation of HFA2? Will we hear from monkeys in Sendai? Above all, will Stone Monkey be called back to service in the post-Sendai period when governments roll out policies and programs framed by HFA2? My answers are no, again no, and then hopefully yes. The first no does not refer to the early drafts of HFA2 and the many excellent comments received from regional meetings and civil society, but to the orgy of bracketing by legalistic country delegates that have shredded the zero draft. No monkeys in sight. The language is that of legal advisors to nations and the special economic interests they represent. The second no refers to the coming sessions in Sendai, the floor show, and accompanying side cabarets. As tightly classicist and choreographed as courtly poetry in the Han and Tang dynasties, Sendai will hear little language of the street and the marketplace in any but a few of these venues. But before I speak of the potential for monkey business after Sendai, let me return to the 81 disasters facing Stone Monkey. Some of you will note, if you know these folk tales, that many of the challenges and the hazards would actually have been recorded by MDAT had it existed. There were storms, major storms, and floods. Stone Monkey also had to respond to non-natural threats, violence, corruption, and intrigue in various forms. So too, ordinary people perceived everyday risks as composed of social, economic, and technological environmental hazards, in addition to natural hazards. A recent survey, pilot survey conducted by the Global Network of Civil Society Organizations for Disaster Reduction, I won't say that again because it's such an unpronounceable long name, interviewed 6,000 people in South and Central America. More than half of all the threats mentioned were non-natural, that is, crime, for instance, violence, large fluctuations in commodity prices, lack of sanitation, and water pollution. These are the ordinary people whose ancestors first told folk tales similar to Stone Monkey's exploits, for instance, the adventures of the hero twins in the Mayan book Popol Vuh. I have not yet mentioned climate change. The scientific case for including climate change in the analysis that underpins the new disaster reduction framework is clear. Climate-related disasters account for a large proportion of loss triggered by natural events. Indeed, some geophysical hazards can be exacerbated by climate change. Sea level rise exposes more land and people to the next tsunami. Saturated mountain slopes are more likely to slip when triggered by an earthquake. Indeed, University College London geology professor Bill Maguire goes as far as suggesting that extreme climate change can so modify the distribution of weight of ice and water on the Earth's crust that increased seismic and volcanic activity will result. Recently published data on trends in Pacific Ocean water temperatures suggest that the puzzling slowdown in global warming since 1998 could soon end, with many consequences, including the threat of deadly urban heat waves. A relatively cool Pacific during the past 2 decades has slowed average global temperature increase, but the Pacific's cool phase of a cycle is due to end, meaning a rapid increase in global temperature that will be intensified by the urban heat island effect and turn deadly when the poor have no access to air conditioning or cool shelters, such as affluent country cities are preparing at this moment. Finally, I come to the optimistic bit. There is life after Sendai. The first HFA was not a strong or a clear document. Nevertheless, governments did a great deal within that flawed framework. Certainly, civil society has done a great deal since 2005. The potential exists for governments, especially local government units, to join with communities and civil society to use even vague HFA2 language as their cue to do what our ancestors knew had to be done. That is, heroic acts by everyday heroes to protect communities, the Earth, and the cosmos. So what specifically to do? First, converse plainly in the language of the street and the marketplace with people about their everyday risks. Build trust through respect for local knowledge. Build further understanding once trust is established by adding in specialist outside knowledge of drainage, of water harvesting, sanitation, passive solar design for creating cool space, and so forth. Secondly, the potential exists for local governments, communities, and civil society to produce action plans that take people's priorities seriously. At the moment, if a community sitting on the slopes of an active volcano is more interested in a clean water supply than in mapping possible lava flow that could affect it, outside authorities will feel stymied by ignorant villagers and withdraw funding. But what if the plan were more flexible and began mapping clean water sources, did something about water, and then built on this base to deal with a volcanic hazard? Both these potentials demand monkey business. Long-established power relations between high culture, as represented by university-trained, certified experts, and low culture, represented by self-taught, uncertified, local experts, have got to be overturned. Long-established donor formalisms, such as the project log frame and narrowly accounted line item budgets, have got to change. National governments have got to replace the rhetoric of decentralization with flows of finance and expertise to local government and devolution of decision-making. These are the transformations in the way that policy is implemented, without which even a brilliant FHA will fail. These then are Stone Monkey's 82nd and 83rd challenges. Thank you.